attempt to do everything that you shouldn't do as a person, and they actually started kind of rape culture in Hawaii, and they also started gang culture in Hawaii because the native men had to find a way to defend themselves because there was so much violence occurring around us. And what this is the potentiality of a colonial vision for a colonial vision of an indigenous future. And Heauho is the potentiality of an indigenous future through an indigenous imaginary. And it was part of a Skins 5.0 workshop, which was held in Hawaii, and it created a partnership between Jojage and Hawaii, and we're continuing this unity and creating new spaces and new ideas. So in the game, you're actually the grandchild of a navigator, and your sister goes out on a journey to find herself as a navigator, but both of your grandfather is starting to get sick. So as part of your experience, you go out in search of your sister, and you discover your own navigational skills and your own experience in the world. Very briefly, I'll talk about Olelo Hawaii recoding. So our friend or participant in the Skins 5.0 workshop, Nathan Nahina, came up with the idea to put Hawaiian language into coding. And what I really appreciate about his process is he didn't really think through or over politicize the act. He just did it. And it's kind of an encounter of sovereignty and self-sovereignty and his own process of debugging Hawaiian language, because he feels that he's still learning, but he's very sharp in our language. And that is visible right here by Hui Ohia and Nahui Ohia. And what that is you can read that. And what this container does is actually, well, with Ohia set active, you activate a bloom of flowers and Ohia flowers every time you do a correct hula move in the game. And with my own projects, I'm actually trying to translate C# into Hawaiian language so that more people have access to, more Hawaiian children have access to coding language without having to go through the barriers of learning English, because that would be their secondary language. And then it would be even more problematic to learn C# because they barely know English already. And this is what the previous slide does and looks like. You can see the flowers are becoming activated. So in this slide, you are the character, the androgynous character. And what we really made it a point to do is make sure that anybody who plays the game who is Hawaii imagine themselves in the future. And it's not specific to gender or it was very interesting that we made this decision because we tend to, in Hawaii, think about building the future without other people and disregarding other people. And so it was really invigorating that other people and everybody came to the consensus that, yeah, you need to be able to imagine yourself in the future no matter who you are. And Hi'iaka Poliopele is a very important person in this goddess on the left is a very important woman and goddess for one of our hula genealogies. And what's interesting about the game is you're learning directly from this akua and this goddess what hula is, where traditionally we would see and feel it in a different way. You're making this very personal exchange with this goddess and hearing the voice of our lovely Noelani Arista. But in the process of learning the steps, you are kind of empowering this goddess, but you also are learning a lot for yourself by this exchange. And in this level, I did sound design and level design, but what we created was this idea of subsistence through the refusal, assertion, and creation of our own ideas, and standing with our more than human relations. And rather than thinking about colonialism or sustainability, we can also imagine that colonialism is sustainable because it has been sustainable for a very long time. And that's why it's very important to envision our subsistence lifestyle in video game because these are really rehabilitative in comparison to the colonial visions that we saw in previous slides.